welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady here, bringing you another interesting story from the Wasteland. So anyone that's played Fallout New Vegas past the opening cutscene knows what happens with you, the courier, having been intercepted and captured by Benny and a couple of great cans. So the two cans that we see in this opening cutscene are Jessup, the guy with the mohawk, and McMurphy. We also run into Jessup down the lane at Boulder City, where we find that McMurphy has sadly passed on. But did you know that there was originally a third can in this group? So if you bought the collector's edition of Fallout New Vegas, you probably do know this, because in that edition there's a graphic novel that was written by Chris Avellone that functions as a prologue to the game's story. It's called All Roads and it features Benny and the three cans on their way to Good Springs to ambush the courier. So there's a couple of things to know that come from that graphic novel. So the opening pages show us that Chance, the third can, was at Bitter Springs when it all went to hell there, and he has developed some problems with chems as a result. So they go to meet Benny, and Chance carves a map into the ground to detail the Mojave area, which you can see that you can find it in the game. So this is Chance's map here. So just see if we can get the right. Okay, so zoom out on this map so you can see it's mapping all the roads of Vegas, and then there's random junk items that are kind of stuck into the ground to mark different locations. So the stick of dynamite is for the NCRCF, and the little cherry bombs where the boomers are, and then up here is the mountain for Jacobstown. So this is the map, and you can find this in the game. It's a marked location, so we're right here, so just directly west of Vault 3 and quite close to Red Rock Canyon, which is obviously where the cans come from, and so north of Good Springs. So this is where they met with Benny at first, and then they made their way down towards Good Springs. So we're gonna follow that path which leads us south. So Chance doesn't speak anymore. He has basically suffered from some severe PTSD as a result of what happened at Bitter Springs, and he is triggered by fire, and he also does use chems quite a lot as a unhealthy coping mechanism. But this would be the road that they walk down, and we see the signpost for Red Rock Canyon, so we're really not far from the Can's home base. But on the road they discovered that a bunch of fiends were attacking a tribal village, and they sit down and kind of discuss what to do, whether to try and work their way around them and avoid notice. But while they're discussing that, Chance takes himself away and he basically jumps into the fight, and the reason for that is one of the fiends is using a flamethrower, so he just goes in with his combat knife and tries to take them all down. So that forces Benny and the other cans to jump in as well to save his life. But he does end up with severe burns, and Benny is understandably quite angry about the situation because of the delay, because he obviously wants to intercept you as the courier, which means he wants to get there in time. And he's angry, so he orders the cans to put Chance down, and they refuse, and then eventually Benny backs down and they carry on. When they're camping that night, Benny sits down and basically tells Chance what his plans are, that he's going to take over New Vegas and what's happening, and basically offers Chance an option. And he leaves a vial of Psycho and says that, you know, you can either sort your head out and get back and do what you've been hired to do, or you can take this way out. And he decides to take that, and then they wake up the next morning to find that he has died. Casdor Nest there. We've got the makeshift Great Can camp with some empty bottles, and somebody's left a bedroll. Burned body. Ugh. Wait a minute. Okay, another burned body. So this is actually where the fight happened with the fiends that had the flamethrowers. A tribal village. So this is the tribal village that was under attack by fiends. You can see we've got a bunch of people dressed as wasteland settlers that are burned, and there's a bunch of dead fiends. The Kazdors have obviously decided to move in. Yeah. So the Kazdors have moved in. I've turned off combat AI just so I'm not spending all this time injecting myself with stim packs to kill these bloody things. But yeah, we've got some great cans as well, bunch of fiends, some leftover chems, and a bit of a mess. So this is where it happened. This was the tribal village where these people were living peacefully, and then the fiends came in and attacked them all, and Chance, because of the flamethrower, couldn't deal with it, so he opted to just jump in and start fighting and got himself badly burned. And then Benny gave him the spiked psycho, and that was the end of Chance. So you can see you find a raven at the grave. There's a Brock flower as well, and then we've got this here. So this is where Chance is buried, which you need a shovel for. Hang on, there we go. Instructions were very unclear, but there we go. So I have used the magic of the console to give myself a shovel. Let's have a look. So when you come here, you can get his armour, and you get Chance's knife, which is a unique combat knife that has bonus critical chance, as a lot of the unique weapons do. So this is Chance's final resting place. So after they woke up and found that he'd died, Jessup and McMurphy insisted on staying here to bury him, and then they caught up with Benny at Goodsprings Cemetery. So showing you on the map, we're really not far now from Goodsprings. So this is the tribal village and their camp, and then the cemetery is just there, which is obviously where we ended up. So Chance is obviously a man who has been through hell and back after what happened at Bitter Springs with the NCR. So when you learn the truth of that, particularly through Boone's personal quest, you kind of realise just, that the Cans have a good reason really to be bitter, no pun intended, about the NCR and what happened to, because it was a bunch of, it was all women and children and elderly people that they just gunned down. So the Cans really have every right to be upset about that, and obviously a lot of the ones that were there, unsurprisingly, ended up suffering from some post-traumatic stress disorder, and Chance was one of them. Any fire that he saw would actually trigger flashbacks for him. So it's quite sad, really, that this poor guy ended up in this situation, because even at one point when they met with Benny and Benny lit a cigarette, Chance got very upset just about the presence of the lighter. We know that Benny has a kind of special lighter which Jessup will give you when you meet him in Boulder City. interestingly, there is a bit in the comic where he talks about stealing it from Benny. When he's talking to McMurphy. So it's an interesting little aside there that, Jessup mentions in the comic that he's going to steal Benny's lighter, and then he is able to give it to you, which means that he must have actually decided to steal it, possibly out of revenge for the fact that Benny basically screwed them over by not paying them the full amount and everything that happened. So yeah, there's the cemetery there, so we'll head up. So that's the path that they took, but they did lose a friend on the way, because even though Chance didn't speak anymore and he used chems a lot and things, they still considered him part of their family, and they still liked him and took care of him. So the fact that Benny basically sort of subtly pushed him into taking his own life is quite sad. And then of course there's another raven to mark the spot, and then obviously we ended up here where Benny shot us and then left us in the shallow grave just outside Good Springs. So everybody knows really what happened to Jessup and what happened to McMurphy. If you actually look in the back of the shop, you find his body, but not everybody's necessarily going to know about Chance, because he was included in the comic, which was it's like basically a prologue to the game story. So you get a bit more background on what happened with the Great Khans, and you get to know Benny a little bit more. So we'll talk more about that when I cover Benny himself, because he is a very interesting character as well, once you know kind of what his motivations are, and his comment about the game was rigged from the start, and the work that he's done in the background to try and set himself up to basically take over Vegas. It's very interesting. But Chance was one of these ones that you could find that map, you could find the grave and think, well, who's Chance, what's this all about? But if you happen to read the comic, the graphic novel that came with the collector's edition, you would know the story. I'm not sure if it's still available. It's published by Dark Horse, so you might still be able to buy it separately if you want to have a read at it. It is very, very interesting, but now you know the story of Chance, and that's why there's that unmarked grave that has Chance's knife in it, and the tribal village that's full of cazadors and dead bodies, and what happened to the Khans before the game started, before you ended up right here. So hopefully you find that interesting little summary. I do want to do videos on some of the bigger characters like Mr. House and Caesar, Ulysses and Father Elijah and that kind of thing. But I think sharing some of the smaller stories from Fallout is really interesting as well, because there's a lot of these stories are things that you would potentially only stumble across if you go exploring and you find and you read terminals and things like that. But I think it's quite interesting to bring some of those to light, and Chance deserves a little bit of a chance in the spotlight, because if you were to see him just going in and attacking all those fiends, you might think that he's just really, really violent. But obviously there's a lot of bad blood between the Khans and the NCR, and that seems to have been the case since basically both of them existed, because the Khans have their origin in Vault 15, as does the NCR, and they kind of splintered off into different factions. So if you played Fallout 1, you have to rescue Tandy from the Khans, and that relationship has just continued to get worse as time's gone on, it seems, especially after the massacre that happened at Bitter Springs, which understandably most of the Great Khans are quite upset and angry about, which is fair enough. So what do you think about Chance? Have you read the graphic novel? What do you think about all that? What do you think about Benny and his role in, slipping spiked chems to Chance to kill him essentially, but make it look like he did it himself? It's quite a sneaky thing, and I think that's the thing, is that Benny's a lot more sneaky than you might think. But hopefully you found that interesting, and let me know what you thought, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.